picturesque short tracks in all of America, beautiful Martinsville Speedway. And seen of today's NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series Haynes 150. It is a beautiful day here in the Blue Ridge. Temperature 71 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, and just a wisp of wind at 5 to 10 miles an hour. After 2 stops on a 21-race, $1 million tour, take a look at the point standings. We have a tie atop the points. Mike Cope and Jody Ridley, each having won a race, are up there. Junior Niedecken in 3rd, Ron Young 4th, Buckshot Jones tied with Scotty Walters for 5th, Rick Crawford is 7th, Hal Goodson, Dan Matthews, and Billy Bigley Jr. rounding out the top 10. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch, and this Slim Jim All-Pro Series is one of the 10 NASCAR touring divisions. Now, it's just like the Busch Grand National Series or the Federal Modified Tour. The rules and the cars are a little bit different, which Ned and Benny will tell you about in just a moment, but competition is the same. Last year, 20 events, 10 different winners. And we've already had fireworks to start out in 1994. Last month at Mobile, Alabama, 6-time national champion Jody Ridley takes the white flag, comes out of turn 4 for the checkered, gets tapped by Mike Cope. Cope takes a checkered flag, gets penalized. He will finish 2nd. Ridley takes the win. Then 2 weeks ago, round 2 at Montgomery, Alabama, they reversed the spots. Cope takes the win, and Ridley finishes 2nd. Well, today, those 2 combatants start 1 and 3, nose to tail. And John Kernan is standing by with Mike Cope, our pole sitter.
Well, Jerry, Mike Cope wins the pole with a lap at 93.3 miles an hour. Mike, another pole. Jody starting right behind you. You guys have already had some battles this year. How's today going to go?
Well, we hope that it goes pretty good. I tell you, the weekend started off really good for the Mannheim Greater Tampa Bay Imperial Auto Auctions team. And if we can just get this car into victory lane, that means we'll win 2 of the battles heading towards the war. So if we do that, we'll be really happy. And I just like to say hi to Charlie and Kim White, John Stour from Mannheim, and Tim Janego. They couldn't be here this weekend. They really wanted to, but they're in a meeting, and I just want to say hi, and I hope to see you over in Victory Lane.
All right, well, the war is getting ready to start. Mike Cope will lead him to the green flag with Jody Ridley out on his tail, and that's where Kyle Petty is standing by.
Well, I'm here with Jody Ridley. The first time I saw Jody Ridley, he kicked Richard Petty's rear end around Dixie Speedway when I was 10 or 11 years old. Jody, you're driving this car, this All-Pro car today. You've been here in Winston Cup cars. You've been here in Busch cars. I know you know the way around, but the competition's tough today.
It really is, you know, and it looks like a continuation of the first couple of races. The same guys are up front again, and it's going to be a tough day, I can tell you that.
Well, Benny and Ned, I think Jody's looking to see this thing through today and see this thing in victory lane.
Well, folks, Jerry Punch talked about the cars being a little bit different. Winston Cup cars weigh 3,500 pounds V8 power. Busch cars, 3,200 pounds V6s. These cars weigh 2,800 pounds with the driver. Ned, this is the division I'm looking for. With the driver, folks, and they run 9-to-1 V8s. But there's one driver that the folks might recognize, Ned.
Yeah, David Green, who's starting on the outside pole today. Of course, David has been running the NASCAR Busch Series for the last several years, but he's not a stranger to this series because he has 5 victories here. These cars, as you say, are different. They're lighter than the Busch cars, but David certainly knows his way around the Martinsville Speedway. And I look for him to give Jody Ridley, Mike Cope, and all the rest of these drivers pretty good run for their money, Jerry.
Indeed, they should, Ned. When we come back, we'll take a look at the full 32-car starting lineup in just the 2nd ever NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series event ever held at Martinsville Speedway.
If you really want to travel for less, bum a ride to Suzuki's Truly Moving Dealing Days, where you can get a great new Suzuki motorcycle for 0 down or low down with low monthly payments. So get to your Suzuki dealer any way you can.
There's no place on earth that I'd rather be than out in the open where it's all plain to see. If it's gonna get done, it's up to you and to me, and there's no place that I'd rather be. Come on along and head for the mountains of Busch. Here, head for the mountains. It's cold and it's smooth and it's waiting for you. Come on, head for the mountains of Busch.
Is that what I think it is? Yeah, it's my new Wagner power painter. Well, can you edge with it? Yeah, you can edge like this or adjust it to control the paint up close. And when I'm done, I'm gonna switch nozzles and stain my deck. Do a lot of other jobs I've been meaning to do.
Well, does it clean up easy?
Yeah, it's quicker than you think.
Why am I painting this by hand?
Good question. Get a Wagner.
If you want to know why most NASCAR teams use a Sears Die-Hard battery, just ask a guy who didn't use a Die-Hard. Die-Hard, the official battery of NASCAR. For more power when you need it most.
Today's Speed World coverage being brought to you by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by Allied Signals Fram Filters. You can pay a little now or a lot later. Let's take a look at today's Suzuki starting lineup. I mentioned 32 cars will start. There's a look at the front row. Mike Cope, a winner 2 weeks ago with Montgomery. On the pole, 93.322 miles per hour. And beside him, the man Ned Jarrett mentioned, David Green, currently sitting second in Busch Grand National Series point standings. Back to row 2. Jody Ridley, a 6-time national champion, alongside Bobby Gill, a 7-year veteran of the All-Pro Slim Jim Tour. Back in row 3. They call him Buckshot. His name is Roy Jones. He will start inside of row 3, and beside him, Tour veteran Rick Crawford. Back in row 4. Rich Bickle almost won this race here last May, and the first time the All-Pro cars ever came here. Ran out of gas with a few laps to go, and beside him, Ron Barfield Jr., former late model stock car competitor. Back to row 5, Pete Orr. Watch for him to be strong. And Tony Walls, what a tremendous story we're going to tell you about this young man. He should be a factor here today.
And in the 6th row, Freddie Query making an appearance in this series. Of course, the fans around Concord, North Carolina know how strong Freddie is in that area. And Slick Yeoman starting in the outside of the 6th row. Row 7, we'll see Shane Hall and Junior Nydecken. And look for Junior to come up through the pack as well. Row number 8, Ron Young and Chuck Knight. Row 9, Tammy Jo Kirk, the only lady in the field, and John Jones. And in the 10th row, Billy Bigley and Scott Walters.
We find back in row 11, Rick Spencer and Troy Miller. Row 12, Rodney Combs Jr. and Bobby Russwood. Row 13, Ricky Sanders and Tommy Porter Jr. Row 14 is Conrad Byrd and Hal Goodson out of Florence, South Carolina. The provisionals are George Engel, Scotty Lovelady, and back in row 16, Brad Payne and Keith White, the last starter.
And we might mention that Mike Cope's qualifying effort was not a track record. Casey Elliott, he is the son of Ernie Elliott, famous engine builder, and he set the track record back last May at 93.914 miles per hour. Field now rumbling along behind the safety car, Pontiac safety car. Take a look at this beautiful racetrack here. H. Clay Earls built it way back in 1947, and it has gotten prettier every year. It is an oval. In fact, 2 long straightaways and very narrow, tight turns.
That's the operative word. Long straightaways. We see they're 800 feet each. Very little bank at 12 degrees, and the straightaways are 0. And the corners tight, and it requires a lot of brakes to even get these cars stopped at 2,600 pounds, Ned.
And I'm sure that we'll see a lot of braking and maybe a lot of bumping too, Benny, because it's tough to pass on this racetrack because of the turns being so tight.
And we might mention those beautiful aerial shots being provided by the network MCI Blimp, piloted today by Captain Tony Stevenson, flying, and what a view he must have of the Blue Ridge Mountains here in Virginia. Gorgeous part of the country. We've had 3 short tracks in a row. We got to go to Thunder Valley in Bristol, Tennessee, and enjoy the wonderful hospitality up there. Larry Carrier and staff, Enix Dailies. We went to Wilkesboro Speedway in the Brushy Mountains last week, and now we come to H. Clay Earls' beautiful facility. The boxwoods, the flowers are in bloom. Good crowd on hand, and we're getting set for 150 laps of Slim Jim All-Pro Series short track racing.
Those flowers are called azaleas.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know that, did you?
Jerry, we see them, they're doing more of the weaving back and forth, trying to get a little bit of heat in those tires than we normally see, because they run a little bit harder rubber compound on the Hoosier tires that they run in this series, and so they want to get them heated up as much as they can before the green flag drops.
Race analysis here, Martinsville Speedway, 0.526 mile oval, 150 laps, pole speed 92.322, purse $42,990. Today, for this 150 lapper, stop number 3 on the 21 race, $1 million Slim Jim Tour. Getting set for the green, and Les Westerfield will wave it as they come down on a turn 4.
Trouble getting his car hooked up.
He's off to a terrible start. Started third, already back to 6th place, and is hung on the outside.
He just simply couldn't make the car get traction.
Now we see Bobby Gill, the black 71. Bobby Gill, that's Rick Crawford on the outside, and there is Jody Ridley on the outside, and Buckshot Jones on the inside in 00.
And the car number 5, Rich Bickle, he is the black car with the lime green number 5. He takes a spot away. At his 6th spot, Ridley now being shuffled back in the 7th position.
And he finally got back on the inside. He knows that's the place to be, at least early in the race. The groove is always on the inside here at Martinsville early in the race.
Mike Cope, he's your leader, the car number 25. Won 2 weeks ago at Montgomery, Alabama on the half mile. The young man, 32 years of age. Beautiful race car. Very competitive driver. And right behind him, the Penrose colors. That's one of the products made by the Goodmark Food Company, which sponsors the series, Slim Jim All-Pro Series, and that's driven by David Green.
There's Rick Crawford in the blue 14, and he's starting to slip and slide up the racetrack. We see Buckshot Jones trying to get alongside of him, and looks like he's going to have him going down in 1.
Has a nose on the inside.
Clean racing. Crawford gives him plenty of room, but then jumps back in the throttle coming out of turn 2, pulls him by half a car length, and we'll see if Buckshot can take the 4th spot away. Still can't grab it. Now they're out of turn 4.
The 5 car right behind this fellows, the black number 5, is Rich Bickle, who drives Harry Mellon's car on the Winston Cup circuit. Tell you what, Crawford's running pretty good on the outside, Ned.
Not bad. He's hanging right out there. I expect as the race goes on that second groove will work in pretty good, but he's doing a good job there right now.
Rick Crawford showing some horsepower on the straightaways. He's the blue car number 14. You might want to know why he's so strong. Robert Yates, the engine builder for that car. Yates, that's the whoa, and he slides very high, but Yates can't put the chassis under it, and that cost him a spot.
It looks like he's going to lose another one.
Yeah, it might have cost him 2 as Bickle gets on the inside. When he goes by, there's Jody Ridley sitting right there. He'd like to cover that spot as well. Now Bickle does make the pass. Here comes Ridley. Whoops. Got awfully close together going into the turn. Well, Crawford just hung on that outside. Can't get back down. If his car will get back down, maybe it won't. Maybe that's where he wants to run.
Needs to get back in line if he possibly can and try it on the bottom once again and see if he can get it to work. He finally does that. He's right behind Jody Ridley. He will run on the bottom of the racetrack and see how it works there. And there's Ron Barfield, that white number 97 right behind him. Back to the lead, and we see that David Green has just about caught Mike Cope.
About a 3-car length separation here in the early laps at Martinsville Speedway, and we will take a quick break and come back and see if David Green can possibly put a move on our leader, Mike Cope. Back in a moment. Rusty Wallace on the pole alongside Sterling Marlin, and Harry Gannon qualifying today did not make the field in his farewell tour. Will not start the next to the last race he will ever run at Martinsville Speedway. That's how competitive Winston Cup is tomorrow. But how competitive is the Slim Jim All-Pro Tour? Ned, he's got to move.
Yes, he has. And Mike Cope slipped a little bit coming off of turn 4, and that's all David Green needed.
The right rear tire is flat on the Mike Cope car. The right rear is flat, and he's about to, he does spin down in turn 1 right in front of the field. And the caution flag is out.
Caution being shown for the first time today. And Mike Cope apparently having a right rear tire go down just out of turn 4. He tried to get back, but under speed. And this flat racetrack, Ned, it's very difficult to make the car turn.
It really is. Of course, this might be a break for him that he spun. He didn't hit anything. Now he'll get to come into the pits, change those tires under caution. He stayed in the lead lap. So I think that was a break for him. Tough break that he had the flat tire, but a good break that he didn't lose a lap and spun out and caution came out.
There's our leader, David Green, the Penrose Meat Snacks. I guess that's a Chevrolet.
That's a Chevrolet Lumina. That's right, that David is driving here today.
If it doesn't resemble the Lumina that you drive on the streets, don't worry about it, folks.
Here's a look at what happened a moment ago.
Right rear tire's flat. Gets no traction. Around he goes. Tries to do a 360. Might quite do it. Does a 180. And he sees all those guys coming right at him, and girls. Tammy Joe in this race. Tammy Joe Burke.
And there's the car number 25 that brought out the caution flag as he heads down pit road. And Tony Barkley, the crew chief, is standing by, as is our John Kernan.
Well, they wait for Mike to come on to pit road. Now, we should make mention at Winston Cup, you very seldom see a cut tires. He slides to a stop, but these are bias ply tires, so you can't cut it down. Apparently, he must have ran over something and cut that right rear down. They'll go to work on the right side. Now, they can only change 2 tires under caution. Now they're having problems. They have to lift the car up to get it on the jack. That's going to cost them some valuable time as they glance down and see the pace car coming out of turn 4. Right side tires, and yes, you can see the right rear was really cut down. They'll get the lug nuts tight. Jack waiting for the jack to drop. Here comes the pace car. They're having problems on that right front. They finally get it, and Mike Cope is told to stop. He'll lose a lap in the pits. Let's go down pit road to Kyle Petty.
Well, I'm standing here with Tony Wall's crew. They've got the hood off. They're standing here with the hood in their hand. We talked earlier, Benny and Ned, and in the booth, they talked earlier about how tough this place was on brakes. He's already boiled his brake fluid. They're changing brake fluid in this thing right now. They sent him back out without his hood on so he wouldn't lose a lap. He didn't lose a lap. He's coming by again, trying to get caught back up so that he can come back into pits. So they've got major problems. 19, 20 laps into a race, when you boiled the brake fluid here, you can't run here, as Benny and Ned well know.
And as you see the car number 25, thanks, Kyle. You see the car number 25. He brought out the caution flag with a cut right rear tire, made a pit stop, and it cost him a lap in the pits. Now he's the tail of the field under caution. Back to Martinsville after this. 30 p.m. Eastern time, and those folks in Pittsburgh and Washington will see New Jersey at Buffalo. Yeah, he'll work for food. You better believe it. That's Benny's Sports Center highlight. Da-da-da. Da-da-da.
Green flag. Here we go.
Back to green at Martinsville. Yes, there are fans here of racers and race broadcasters. David Green leads them down at turn 1. And the pit rows.
Oh, we got a spin down in turn 1. Freddie Query and the 97 car Barfield got hooked up, and no caution.
Oh, they're getting back on the track going again. Mike Cope didn't get up there beside of David Green on the restart. He's back pretty far. In fact, his car, something seems to be wrong with Mike Cope's car. He's pulling down to the inside, going very slow, as if something maybe is broken on the chassis.
You wonder if possibly when he had that tire cut down, if he didn't have a brake problem. There's the replay of what happened a moment ago. Ron Barfield Jr. in the car number 97.
Freddie Query get hooked up in that 6 car. That's Freddie Query, and both able to get going again, but they both lost a lot of time, and it looks like they sure haven't done their chassis any good, that's for sure. There's the contact once again. Pete Orr goes by on the outside, that 30 car.
I'd mentioned they had limited practice yesterday due to some rain in the area, and the practice was limited to about 25 or 30 minutes late in the afternoon because of the NASCAR Winston Cup car on the track in their qualifying session. They had a couple practice sessions this morning. They qualified shortly before noon today, and so they've had very little time to get their cars set up. Here's a battle back for 8th and 9th position. Car number 99, Pensacola, Florida driver Junior Niedecken, who has 2 top 5 finishes in the first 2 events of 1994.
That's Slick Yeoman's in the red number 84. And by the way, 99, he doesn't want to be known as Junior anymore. It's Wayne Niedecken. And we got another spin. Boy, I tell you what, that second corner is the place.
Trouble again, and caution on the speedway.
That's the 60 car of Chuck Knight sitting there. He gets his car going again and didn't lose a lap. No damage and didn't lose a lap. Very fortunate.
I think Mike Cope's going to be glad to see this caution. He was dropping back, not running up to full speed. He'll get to come back into the pits, I assume he will. John, how about it? You know anything about what's going on with him?
Well, Ned, what I was going to comment on is what Benny had said about turn 2. Looks like the place. A lot of the drivers this morning after practice were telling me that, yeah, you know where the concrete is over there? You got kind of a dip and a bump. They say that they have a big time problem when they're getting on the gas. The car just wants to whip around on them right there because of the bump on the concrete. That was what I wanted to share with you all.
And here's a replay again of what happened over there in turns 1 and 2 with Chuck Knight.
The outside and around he went. These guys are really having some trouble getting traction coming off these corners. And look at them go 3 abreast. One down in the, who's that in the grass down there?
That was a 26 car of Keith White out of Higginsville, Missouri. Miller Genuine Draft Chevrolet. There's Chuck Knight. It's car number 60. Got a little bit of a scare. Brought the caution flag out for the second time today. Our leader up front, the car number 44, David Green. Remember, David almost won the Busch Series event here back a month ago. He sat on the pole, finished second to Terry Labonte. Went on to get his Busch Series victory. Green, having run the Busch Grand National cars here 5 times, been very, very successful. Ran this series for a number of years, as he currently shows the way in front of behind our Pontiac pace car. He wouldn't be in front of the Pontiac pace car. That wouldn't be exactly allowed. And there's our Network MCI blend, giving us some beautiful aerial shots. Being piloted today by Captain Tony Stevenson, high above Martinsville Speedway. And what a picturesque place.
And folks, we talked about long straightaways. Check it out. Right, we're checking the trucks out right now. And the food, and we see Mike Cope in the pits.
And Benny, they're looking underneath that thing. I speculated that maybe something was wrong with the chassis of the car. They've gone under there and have done something to it, sending it back out. It does not want to go another lap down. He's already 1 lap down. The car certainly was not handling the way that he would like for it to.
Well, that proved Tony Barkley and company trying to get him dialed back in. Boy, he was so tough in qualifying, putting that car on the pole today. In qualifying earlier, I mentioned it wasn't a track record. Indeed, it was a track record, we are told, in qualifying here at the Martinsville Speedway, breaking the record set by Casey Elliott last May. But he has had his troubles bringing out the first caution flag of the day. Lost a lap due to a cut right rear tire. Actually, he didn't lose a lap due to the cut tire. Lost a lap on pit road. And you see they're working with a coil-over shock absorber, so maybe, Ned, you're right. Maybe he did break a shock or something in the right rear.
Could have. Go ahead, John.
Well, no, trying to talk with the crew down here whenever they're too busy for me to talk to, but one of them said something stripped. So the jacking mechanism perhaps is stripped, and they can't put weight on that. They can't adjust the weight on that right rear with this coil-over shock. But it looks like we're going back to green now, so they'll have to do it later.
Green flag racing here. Car number 44, David Green, leads him down in turn 1. The 71 is Bobby Gill. That's the black car. The 00 is Buckshot Jones in 3rd spot. Back and forth is Rich Pickle in the car number 5. And the defending and 6-time series champion, Jody Ridley in the car number 98 is in 5th position.
Jerry, I don't think that bothered Jody Ridley too much that he got a bad start there at the beginning of the race. He's the type that just sit there and run, keep the leaders in sight.
And we've got another car spun down in the 1st and 2nd corner, and this is looking bad. This is not looking good.
Whoa, they just do miss him in the caution. One car number 4, just getting by Ron Young. Had the car 84 on the outside, Slick Yeomans, and Yeomans saw that Young was in trouble, gave him a little bit of room, not much though, and they were able to get by. But the car number 22, Brad Payne, out of Philpott, Kentucky, is the car that has spun down there.
You know where Philpott is?
Near Owensboro.
Right near Owensboro. Another guy from Owensboro, Kentucky. It ain't bad enough we got all these Greens and Waltrips. We got another one from Owensboro.
And we've got caution out for the 3rd time today here at Martinsville Speedway for the spin of the car number 22. Where else? Down in turns 1 and 2. We'll be back with more Slim Jim All-Pro action after this. The car number 22, Brad Payne, the Healthy Choice Foods Ford. And he made a healthy choice not to let the car come back up across the racetrack in front of traffic as they were able to squeeze by him. There's been more activity on pit road. Let's check in with John Kernan.
Well, Mike Cope, he's lost a couple of laps in the pits, Jerry, but they did get that right rear problem fixed. It was the shock. The jacking mechanism had stripped on it and would not allow them to jack weight into the car. In fact, this, if we get a shot of this here, this is the jack, or the jacking mechanism there. That screws down. Okay, maybe we can get back to that, guys.
Back to green flag racing. 4 cars now glued together up front. And the car number 71, Bobby Gill, and he is hanging right with our leader, David Green.
He sure is. That's the better built automobile. And I know you wonder what better built is. What's built better? Well, it's diamond plate toolboxes that go in the back of pickups and stuff like that. Buckshot Jones, the 00, and 5 is Rich Bickle. Terminal Transport out of Concord, North Carolina, running 4th.
Apparently it takes Green a few laps to get his car hooked up again after a restart. But the car number 71 of Bobby Gill was not far behind him before.
And guess what, Ned? I hate to say it, we got another spin down in turn 1. I hate to mention it, but there's the 33 car. He's looped it right in front of the field, and Buckshot about run into it.
Conrad Burr in the car number 33 has spun down in turns 1 and 2, and a little bit of flame comes from the right side of the car.
He's trying to start the engine back up. Hey, Kyle, what in the world is wrong with this first and second corner?
I tell you what, Benny, I think part of the problem is these tires are a spec tire or economy tire that they make them run on these all-pro cars. It takes a little bit longer to get some heat in them. Turns 1 and 2, this is a unique racetrack. Turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is it's concrete. The corners here are concrete. Straightaways are asphalt. So it's a transition period. The cars take a little bit longer to get a little heat in it. The rubber from these tires, the Winston Cup, second round of Winston Cup qualifying was a lot slower because these cars qualified before the Winston Cup cars did. They put their rubber down on the racetrack. The racetrack was just super slick. These cars are running in their own rubber right now, and it's double slick for these guys too. So when they make that transition in there, it's jumping out from under them, Ned.
Kyle, you mean to tell me that radial rubber and bias ply rubber makes a difference?
Let me tell you something.
What? Tell me.
I don't care what they say that rubber is rubber. Rubber ain't rubber, buddy. Let me tell you that. Some of the rubber from these cars, we don't have that problem when we run the modifieds here or the Busch cars. You don't have that big a problem. But when you start running spec tires and they start running tires that they want to last a little bit longer, it's a different compound of rubber, and these guys are having trouble with it right now.
And we might mention they all run on this series on the Hoosier tire. It's a $106 economy tire, bias ply, as you heard Kyle mention. And there's one of the victims right there. Let's check in with John Kernan.
Well, Jerry, this is the right rear shock off Mike Cope's car. Now, this nut right here screws down along these threads, and that's what puts pressure up and down the spring on the coil over. Now, you can see up here at the top that the threads have been stripped. So this nut on the weight of the car was just sliding up and down, and that's why Mike Cope could not drive it. They had to get the car in here and get it fixed, but he is about 3 laps down now.
Exactly, John. 3 laps down, back in 30th spot. Thank you very much. Caution complete for the 4th time today. David Green will lead it back to the green flag after 3 more laps under the yellow.
Mike Cope is right up there this time. He's trying to move around the Buckshot Jones car. He'd like to get up there to Gill and David Green and get one of those laps back. But he's got to feel his car out and see, okay, did they get that thing adjusted just right? They did.
That's the problem in putting that nut in exactly the right place, the same place that the other adjusted nut was located, because that makes a difference on how the chassis is set up.
And I don't believe it's quite as good as it was earlier. He has fresher tires on the outside than these other cars, but I don't think it's as good as it was early in the race.
We mentioned there were 10 different winners last year. Cope led the way with 5 victories, but he's now being shown 3 laps down. These 2 guys battling it out. Pretty good battle up front.
Tell you what, this Bobby Gill, every time I've seen these all-pro cars run, he has been so impressive. In Nashville, Tennessee, we've done a couple of those races, and Bobby Gill is someone to be reckoned with. That black 71.
6 career victories Bobby Gill has on the series. He won once last year at Pensacola, Florida, back last July. July 30th, his only victory. Here's a battle back for 9th and 10th.
Ron Young in the 4 car, going by the 84 car. That's Slick Yeomans.
So Young takes over the 9th position.
The 85 car, the white 85, is Shane Hall out of Simpsonville, South Carolina. First race, All-Pro. His very first race.
Doing a pretty good job there.
He is doing a great job.
Currently running in the 11th position, wanting that 10th spot.
And there's Billy Bigley right behind him, the black number 28 car. A regular competitor here on the All-Pro. And it looks like you're right. After a few laps, it looks like Davey Green's able to get hooked up and going pretty well.
He really seems to be getting off turn 2 well. Gets good traction from there. Gill's still hanging in there. Let's see what he does this time coming off as we watch this battle back there. He gained a little bit coming off the turn that time as we watched Upshot Jones and the car number 5 of Rich Bickle.
They're back in 3rd and 4th position. Not losing much to the lead twosome. There's about a 4-car length separation between Green and the 71 car of Bobby Gill, and then 4-car lengths back to Buckshot, the 00, and the 5 of Rich Bickle. Then about a 10 or 12-car length separation back to the 5th place car, number 98, and that is Jody Ridley.
As I mentioned, these fellows run 9-to-1 compression. What that means, the Whistler Cup cars run about 14, 15-to-1, and they have about 725 horsepower. These guys run 9-to-1 with a 390 carburetor. They develop somewhere around 500 horsepower. 225 less than the Whistler Cup cars.
Now, Davey Green is getting a taste of what the Busch Series will be in the coming years. Starting in 1995, they will integrate the 9-to-1 compression ratio V8 engines into the Busch Series, and then in 96, it'll be all V8s in that series. So he's getting a little bit of taste of it here today.
And doing pretty well with his taste, Ned.
Yeah.
And Bobby Gill's now's closed up, so
they're beginning to pull away a little bit from Jones and Bickle.
Tell you what, this blimp really gives us a great shot of these guys going through the corner.
Concrete on the inside of the corners, 2 long straightaways, 2 very tight turns, a half-mile racetrack, and great Slim Jim All-Pro NASCAR racing as Bickle tries to make the move inside of Buckshot. It's Buckshot and Bickle in 3rd and 4th as we're in the early laps here at Martinsville Speedway. Beautiful day for NASCAR racing. Stay with us. Back in just a moment. Making about 8 car lengths over Bobby Gill in the black and white numeral, car number 71. He's in 2nd position. There's Green coming out of turn 2. Gill, that's the car, black car right there. He is in 2nd spot.
It looks like when they run across the traffic, Ned, that David Green was able to get through that traffic and run on the outside much better than Gill.
Yeah, I think his car was a little bit better hooked up out there, Benny, and he was able to pick up 4 or 5 car lengths on him.
And you can see that these fellows just kind of driven away from the Buckshot Jones car.
In fact, Buckshot is pulled away from Rich Bickle, and now Jody Ridley has caught him.
Let's check in the pits with John Koenig.
Well, I just checked with the crew on David Green. They've been keeping a watch on his lap times. They said he's been very consistent. David is pleased with the car. If they don't lose, if the lap times don't fall off too much, they may decide to roll the dice, go the entire distance, 150 laps on the set of tires. David's really loving the ride right now. He told me he plans to run 5 to 8 of these All-Pro events this year on his weekends off. If everyone can go like this, who knows, maybe he might try to run all of the races if he could squeeze them in.
He still works on that Busch Grand National car. You better go to work, because I tell you what, there'll be a Rougemont next week, and he'll have his hands full down there.
And just 14 points behind Randy LaJoie in the point standings. Here's a battle between the car number 5 and the car number 98, Rich Bickle and Jody Ridley.
It's 4th and 5th. Bickle has the 4th position in the black car number 5. Ridley in the blue number 98 Ford.
You heard Kyle Petty mention.
Oh, we've got a crash in turn 3 now. That's the 60. Yes, it is. Chuck Knight in the 26 car. Keith White made some contact. Here they're coming back for the line, and David Green will take the caution flag. Tell you what, Chuck Knight's got some pretty good damage to the right front of his, to the front of his car. There we see Keith White backed up to the fence. See the front end all bashed up on that 60 car?
Might mention most of these cars on the outside are fiberglass and aluminum. The frame, roll cage, and interior part is steel, but much of the front of the cars is fiberglass or Kevlar, carbon fiber, and aluminum. That's how they keep the car so light at 2,800 pounds. Here's what happened a moment ago, coming up the back straightaway toward turn 3.
That's Keith White, the black car on the inside, and the 60 car of Chuck Knight tried to go around him and all of a sudden made contact. And once again, they made contact just as they start in the corner. And it looked like Keith White was able to hit the wall, did hit the wall very hard.
But he's still sitting there, and there comes Chuck Knight's car number 60 down pit road. And as they take a break, so will we. Under caution for the 5th time today here in the Haynes 150 Slim Jim All-Pro NASCAR Series event from Martinsville Speedway. Temperatures in the low 70s, not a cloud in the sky. Good crowd on hand, enjoying exciting short track racing. They've been coming here since 1947 at H. Clay Earl's beautiful facility here in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains on the North Carolina-Virginia border. And green flag once again for David Green as he will lead him down on lap 72. 5 laps of caution for the 5th time today.
Jerry, both of those cars that were involved in that last caution are back out on the track.
Buckshot getting a little racy here, guys.
Buckshot Jones in the 00. He is in 3rd position. David Green, our leader. Bobby Gill in 2nd. Then comes Buckshot, the 00. Rich Bickle in the car number 5. We mentioned he almost won this race last May, the first time that All-Pro Slim Jim Tour ever came here. He ran out of gas, tried to go the full 200 laps, just ran short on fuel, and coasted down. I think he finished 9th that day.
Bickle's making a run at Buckshot right now.
Sure is, and Buckshot Jones had pulled away from Rich Bickle just before the caution flag. So you're right, these guys really seem to have problems getting hooked up right after the green flag is thrown again after a restart.
After those tires heat up, it does seem to affect them. David Green's car seems to get better, or at least it doesn't slow down as much as some of the others do.
Now, in case you're wondering, Buckshot, that's not the name they put on the birth certificate. He gets a move from Rich Bickle to take the 3rd spot away. Bickle on the inside, and they rub. Bodies come together, and Buckshot will lose a spot and almost will lose 4th spot. Here's Jody Ridley.
Jody's on the inside. And there's Rick Crawford in the blue 14 trying to take a spot away as well.
Now, Jerry, I know there's a story behind Buckshot and his name.
Well, it's hard to say. That's not the name that his mom and dad put on the birth certificate. His name actually is Roy Jones. His grandfather nicknamed him Buckshot when the kid was a toddler and just banged his head into a picnic table outside. And Roy, then, as he was called, didn't cry. And his grandfather said, that boy is as tough as Buckshot. And so that nickname has stood since the early days. And now the family watching back in Monticello, Georgia, can be vindicated. He did not put Buckshot on the birth certificate. His name is Roy Jones, but everyone knows him as Buckshot.
He's dropped back to the 5th position right now.
Take a look at our AutoZone race summary. David Green, our leader, has led 60 of the 76 laps, just past the halfway point. 1 lead change among 2 cars. 21 cars in the lead lap. 5 cautions for 24 laps. Average speed by virtue of 5 caution flags, a little over 66.5 miles per hour. Race leaders, Mike Cope, who set on the pole, and of course David Green. Out of race, Tony Walls in the car number 1, and Ricky Sanders, young man who was the son of Ronnie Sanders, one of the best short track drivers to Southeast for many, many years.
Slipping and sliding to begin with. That looks like he's hooked up pretty well now, that blue 14.
Going pretty well. He's coming up to challenge Buckshot for the 5th position.
That 14 car sponsored by the Circle Bar truck stop out in Ozone, Texas. Remember, they used to sponsor Winston Cup car, Chet Phillip.
Remember that.
Speaking of Winston Cup, Rick Crawford tried to qualify at Daytona in February in the Winston Cup race, didn't make the field. Also tried last November in Atlanta. They plan on trying to run some Winston Cup events later in the year at Rockingham, Phoenix, and Charlotte. May even try to go to Indianapolis, but who won't go to Indianapolis to try to make that field?
There's still 21 cars on the lead lap.
It was just Wayne Nidecken just took over the spot from Pete Orr. He's now 7th, and Pete Orr back to 8th spot coming off the second corner. Orr got a little out of shape. His sponsor is a very interesting sponsor, Horsin' Around Farms. Raised quarter horses down just outside Orlando. That's the 30 car I'm speaking of.
Car number 99, that's a Sims Craft Oldsmobile. Nathan Sims involved with Wayne Nidecken.
There you go. He's trying to change his name from Junior to Wayne. Appreciate you using his name. I told him to do that.
And here's the 00 and Rick Crawford. Buckshot and Crawford. They battled for 5th and 6th position.
We can see 3rd and 4th right direct in front of him as Crawford gets a little bit out of shape.
Our leader, David Green, working traffic. Now he's in traffic as you watch the battle here. That's Rich Bickle in the car number 5 in 3rd place. Jody Ridley in the 98, the Ford Thunderbird. Ridley has an Ernie Elliott engine in that car. Hard to find someone who can build them stronger than Ernie Elliott. Out of Dawsonville, Georgia, he can make a lawnmower go 200 miles an hour if he wanted to.
And the Elliots go long ways back. As a matter of fact, I think he's the guy who might have gotten Bill Elliott interested in driving a race car back when.
Jody's from Chatsworth, Georgia. He said, but the nearest big town to them is Dawsonville. That's the only town that's got a pool room. Let's check in with John Kernan.
Kind of like my hometown back in Missouri of Irondale. We had to go to Flat River, which is about the size of Dawsonville. But talking about that motor, you mentioned 9-to-1, 9.5-to-1 compression. Last year on that motor, they ran 4,000 race laps. Now, that's not counting the practice before they had to go through and freshen that motor. Jody said they run almost the whole season before they had to redo the motor. So that's one of the things to look for. I think that NASCAR is looking at keeping expenses down with that 9-to-1 engine. They last a long time.
And certainly kudos to Ernie Elliott, too, for building one like that can win 3 races and lead all those laps and win a championship for the 6th time. Jody Ridley has won the championship 3 times when it was a NASCAR sanction and 3 times when it was back in the old All-Pro Series.
These guys are going to run 150 laps. You know, they really haven't lapped a whole lot of cars. The leaders haven't lapped a whole lot of cars, so if they stop on the caution, they'll have to restart the race. About 25 pretty good cars, Ned.
Yeah, they give up a lot of track position. David Green is coming up on the 21st place car right now. That's Rodney Combs Jr., who is currently in 21st. He's the last car on the lead lap. So, yeah, if they made a pit stop and a lot of others didn't, that would be bad track position.
And Freddie Query has stopped down in the 1st and 2nd corner. This will bring out a caution flag. Car just stopped.
Black and lime green, number 6, is pulled up across the racetrack just out of turn 2. They're into turn 2. And that will indeed bring the caution flag out, as Benny Parsons said a moment ago, the 6th time today. And he pulls up, stops, brings the caution flag out, and now heads back. So he will make an entry on the pit road. We're under caution here at Martinsville Speedway. Yes, the Winston Cup drivers are enjoying the racing action as well. Series Haynes 150. Take a look at our diehard driver profile, and it's a special one today. The young man has already called it a day, but it is just a victory for him to be back in racing. Tony Walls, 31 years of age, from Albertville, Alabama, 8 Slim Jim All-Pro starts, best finish of 17th last year at Nashville, Tennessee, 1 pole coming last year, and he drives in the Phoenix construction car. Now, here is what happened to Tony. Some shots taken by photographer Dave Drews last year at I-70 Speedway in Odessa, Missouri. A horrific fire, but the young man has come back.
Just a lot of hard work and dedication. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I went straight to the gym. I couldn't do very much, but I stuck with it real hard and worked out 2 or 3 times each day, just a little at a time, till I could work out a lot, you know, real hard. every week, and I've just brought myself to my full strength, and my hands are doing great, and just a lot of hard work.
That young man suffered second and third degree burns over 35% of his body. He was wearing a single layer fire suit and no fire retardant underwear and a helmet that did not have Nomex lining. Remember that, folks, Nomex in the helmet and double layer fire suits. Back with more from Martinsville Speedway after this. Heating up behind him between Bobby Gill and Rich Bickle, and just a moment ago when he took the green flag, those two cars came together.
Sure did. Rich Bickle, I'm telling you, I thought his car was going away 25, 30 laps ago. It seems to be getting stronger as the race goes on.
Did we hear that he has a power steering problem on his car?
That's what I heard, that his power steering is out. It's a good thing he's a big old boy, Nick, because he'll need all those muscles before this race is over.
Yep, once that power steering goes out, if you've ever had a street car and had the power steering go out, you know how much more difficult it is to turn. Well, he's facing that situation there now, but Vinny says he's a big boy. He'll probably handle it.
Talking about Rich Bickle in the car number 5, who runs in third position behind Bobby Gill. Bobby Gill at 34 years of age out of Dalton, Georgia. 6-year veteran of all-pro racing, 6 career victories. Bobby Gill had a great season last year, won the Snowball Derby, won the World Cup 300 out in Missouri, and also won the World Round 300 at Jeffco.
Here's Ron Young, the 4-car, Slick Yeomans in the 84. Ned Jarrett and I talked about on the caution flag with some people stop and make tire changes. These two drivers did stop, changed right side tires. They have been flying once they got back on the racetrack, but they need a caution now to catch up with the leaders.
Yeah, they're pretty far back in the field. But the 84 car, Vinny, Slick Yeomans lost a lap in the pits.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. He came back in a second time, and so he won a lap down. He's being shown in the 20th position, 1 lap down.
But the 4-car is being shown in 15th position. That's Ron Young out of Conyers, Georgia, the Pizza Plus Oldsmobile. So that tire change could, in effect, help him. Here's the 00 in the 14 for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Buckshot Jones getting a challenge from Rick Crawford in the car number 14. Wayne, don't call me Junior Niedecken, is back in 7th spot in the yellow car. They are 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's a 00. Buckshot getting a challenge on the inside is Crawford.
Crawford recognized that move by Buckshot because it happened to him the first 10 or 15 laps of this race. He was on the outside.
Good. Slips a little bit coming off the turn, but hangs on to it.
Good battle there as Crawford trying not to lean on him. Very clean racing here at Martinsville in this Slim Jim All-Pro Series.
Rick Crawford in the 14 car, same young man who went to Phoenix last year in the Southwest Tour, sat on the pole and takes his spot away.
Now Wayne Niedecken trying to take the 6th spot away from Buckshot Jones.
Crawford almost lost it down in the 1st and 2nd corner. He was so relieved getting by Buckshot, he almost lost it.
They are side, and they rub a little bit up in turns 3 and 4.
Niedecken got on the outside, and here's a car that's spun out.
That's Hal Goodson out of Darlington, South Carolina. One of the All-Pro veterans. He gets the car going up in turn 4. And that will bring out the caution flag for the 7th time today. Hal Goodson in the car number 16. Downtown Radio Service sponsored Ford. Here's what happened to Hal just a moment ago.
Out of Charlotte, North Carolina, here he is, the blue number 16. Going in the corner, it looks like he and the white car got together, and I'm not sure who that white car is. 97, Ron Barfield. So these guys ran together down at Myrtle Beach Speedway. Oh, and I see Barfield has knocked the right front fender off. The folks, that's Fuddruckers, a hamburger joint on the quarter panel of that car.
I knew you'd pick up on that, Vinny. We might mention Hal Goodson won at Montgomery last year and finished 2nd 3 times. But more importantly for Hal Goodson, he was married this past Tuesday to Trudy. Took her out to dinner and then went to the race shop. Well, that's quite a honeymoon.
Good for her. Him.
Let's check in with Kyle Petty.
Well, I'm standing here in Freddie Query's pit. He had a flat tire just a minute ago, stopped over in turn 2. The caution came out, he came in and changed it. they're running these economy tires like we've talked about. There's been talk that these tires could go the whole race. Some of the guys seem to think they couldn't go with 75 or 80 laps. This tire has plenty of rubber left on it. We run the radials, which really has solved our puncture problem. We really don't have a lot of puncture problems in this area of the tire, but it doesn't make any difference whether you run a radial or run a bias ply. When you run into somebody and start tearing the sidewall out of it like this, you're going to get flat tires, Benny and Ned.
Yep, you sure are. And I guess the bias ply tire is a little more subject to get punctured than the radial tires, as Kyle pointed out. And as he also pointed out earlier, there's a different kind of rubber compound on these tires. And when the Winston Cup cars go out for their happy hour this afternoon, they'll have to be careful for a little while because they'll be doing some slipping and sliding.
Got a shot a minute ago of Ron Barfield Jr. He was involved, as you heard Benny and Ned mention a moment ago, in the car number 97, former two-time track champion at Myrtle Beach. He was a champion down there in late model stock cars in 91 and 92. That's where your son runs.
He and Kevin used to run together down there, and as a matter of fact, I think Keith might be thinking about going down and running a race or two. My youngest son.
Yes, they really.
Yeah.
Doing public relations work in auto racing.
Keith told me his dad was going to sponsor him in a race car down there, he thought. But this beautiful shot from above Martinsville Speedway, courtesy of those folks, the fine Network MCI blimp being piloted today by Captain Tony Stevenson, giving us some gorgeous shots of the foothills of the Blue Ridge here in Martinsville, Virginia. Clay Earl's gorgeous half-mile facility. The boxwoods and the azaleas are in bloom and having some great NASCAR racing. What, Benny?
I didn't say anything. You know, that beautiful blue sky. Last week I called it the Carolina blue. It looks like the same thing up here in Virginia, doesn't it?
Sure does. I guess they got a Virginia blue up here.
Just gorgeous.
We're going back green flag racing next time, half a lap from now. There's Tammy Jo Kirk.
They on the lead lap, and Tammy Jo being shown where, Ned? Back in 11th spot.
She's a motorcycle mechanic during the week. During the day, works on the race car at night.
She raced 17 years in flat track motorcycles since she was 9 years old. 7 years with the Camel Pro Series, so she is quite a competitor. Lap 115, this caution flag, the 7th one of the day, out for 5 laps as laps are winding down. Just 36 to go, and David Green gets another challenge from Bobby Gill.
I think David Green would like to see these cautions not come because he gets himself a pretty good lead build up.
Look at that 5 car trying to drive up on the outside, Ned, on the outside of Bobby Gill.
Well, that's a bold move.
Man.
Don't think he's going to be able to make it work, but couldn't blame him for trying.
That's Rich Bickle we're talking about in the car number 5, and here's the battle back in the pack as they are side by side. Crawford, Wayne Niedecken, Crawford the car number 14, Niedecken is 99, Jones the 00.
Mike Pope on the inside, our pole sitter, who's had some trouble, is several laps down.
Yeah, he's 3 laps down, being shown in the 23rd position.
But he's fast enough that Rick Crawford's having some trouble getting around him.
Crawford's in 5th position in the blue car. He's slipping and sliding a little bit as the laps are winding down. Most of these cars have not changed tires. These are the same bias fly tires that Kyle Petty showed you a minute ago that they have run 117 laps on.
Looks like Buckshot's going to take the spot away from Niedecken.
Yeah, Mike Cope has moved high. Yeah, a little bumping going on there. Mike Cope moved out of the way, let the guys have the inside groove. He knows they're racing for position, so he moved out of the way and let them go.
Nice sportsmanship move by Mike Cope, who came into this race, as we told you at the top of the show, co-leader of the points with Jody Ridley. That will change today, as we still have 19 cars on the lead lap, and Cope is being shown at least 3 laps down in 23rd position.
Back to the lead. We still got a great race going for 2nd spot. Bobby Gill, the black number 71. The black number 5 of Rich Bickle is in 3rd spot.
And Jody Ridley just sitting there, Benny. I wonder if he's just sort of waiting. He's been very smooth all day long. Hasn't abused his tires too much.
30 laps to go.
Laps are winding down. Will David Green be able to hold on and get his first all-pro victory at Martinsville Speedway? We'll answer that and other questions when we come back. So stay with us. heard Benny and Ned say, could Ridley be biding his time, the veteran campaigner? And apparently he has had time to go ahead and push his foot in it and see if he can take the third spot away.
Well, there's two things happening here right now. We said that he'd been driving straight, smooth all day long, not abusing his tires too much. Now he is abusing his tires, and the leaders are getting away, and he still didn't make the pass.
Let's check in with John Kernan.
Well, Jody had told me he would try and save his brakes because he just uses regular brake pads. He wanted to have some pads left, so he took it easy, and he also took it easy with his tires. But I just talked to Biddle Ridley, his crew chief, and he tells me that the car is just a little bit tight. They would have liked to have come in and made a change and loosened it up, but they were unable to do that. So let's go down pit road to Kyle Petty.
I'm standing here in Richie Bickle's pits, and there's been talk that his power steering, that he was having trouble with his power steering. I checked in, they say no, he's not having trouble with his power steering. The car is just a little bit loose right now. You know, they were talking earlier about the power steering. If you want to know what it feels like, go out in your garage, turn your switch on, and try to turn your car. That's what it feels like when power steering goes out. He said that Jody's car was a little bit tight. Rich's car is a little bit loose, and as you can see, they're losing to the leaders, and they can't pass each other. Benny?
Yeah, they sure are. I tell you what, the 5-car, Rich Bickle's been pretty impressive on the outside, but as you said, they've lost a lot of ground to the leaders, David Green and Bobby Gill. And back to the leaders. Look here, Gill is closed up on the back bumper of David Green, and some heavy traffic right in front of this lead duo.
Now, earlier in the race, Benny, David Green was able to get through the traffic. He pointed that out a little bit better than Gill. Let's see what he does this time.
They go by Conrad Burr, the car number 33. The 26 they go by is Keith White. As you said, laps are winding down. There will be 19 laps as they come by that time. And there's, take a look at, pick out your favorite driver as the cars come out of turn 4 and come right at you down the front straightaway. David Green has led since lap 17. Excuse me, gentlemen.
And if you don't know who they are, folks, by looking at the cars, don't feel bad, because I can't hardly tell them off myself.
And there's our leader coming back at you. Easy to pick out that big Penrose colors, the bright red, yellow, and white room on car number 44. David Green, our leader, Bobby Gill, Rich Bickle, Jody Ridley, and the car number 14 is Rick Crawford.
And once again, looked like David Green was able to get through that traffic just a little bit better than Bobby Gill. When they approached that traffic, he had a 2-car length no advantage. It opened up to 2-car lengths. Now in just one lap, Bobby Gill is closed back up right on his rear bumper.
He's going to keep the pressure on him with about 17 laps to go.
17 to go. It'll be 16 as they flash past the start-finish line. Out in turns 1 and 2, Bobby Gill trying to get his first win of the 1994 season. We mentioned he won one last year at Pensacola in July.
David Green is able to hold his car right down on the bottom of the racetrack, and now beginning to pull away just a little bit. Coming off of turn 2, when he gets that thing pointed right, he's able to hit the accelerator, and there he pulls away from Bobby Gill as we can continue to have this battle for third.
Rich Bickle in the car number 5, Jody Ridley in the 98. Bickle driving a Ford, as is Ridley. Ford Thunderbirds.
I think Jody Ridley in the 98, the blue 98, is a little bit faster than Bickle right now, but he just simply can't get by.
One of Jody Ridley's sponsors is Shop Talk. You see here on ESPN Sunday afternoons. Ridley trying to make the move for third spot. Bickle holding the line. This is Rich Bickle's first All-Pro start of the 1994 season.
Well, as they pointed out in the pits, his car is a little bit tight. He needs the whole racetrack to run to get around here at a good speed with a tight race car. When he gets down on the inside, he pushes up and he just simply can't get around Bickle. Bickle's car is loose. If they could swap a little bit of that with each other, they'd really be fast. They might catch the leaders.
There in turns 2, the leaders are exiting the back straightaway as we get a move now. Ridley tries to make it inside. You're looking from high above. That beautiful blimp shot coming out of turn 4, and Ridley has a shot.
Tries to get on the inside, but just like Ned Jarrett said, he can't let that car come up the racetrack because Bickle is there.
with a tight car, that's what it wants to do. It wants to come out next to the wall. And when he's running behind Bickle, he can do that. Once he gets under it, that takes away part of the room, and he just can't cut it.
It'll be 10 laps to go next time by. And once again, they are half a car length apart. This is the battle for third position. David Green still our leader. Bobby Gill runs second. But this is the best battle on the racetrack right here. As laps are winding down in a lap car on the inside, the car number 19 of Scotty Lovelady as they go by him up in turn 3.
Yeah, and Ridley had to back off just a little bit. Took his position away. Or his line away, I should say. Right here, Jody is really beating Bickle coming off the turn 2. Gets a good run down the backstretch, but he can't do too much with him right here.
And as we watch this, we will remind you that David Green is still leading, and he has about a 10-car length advantage on Bobby Gill right now. As Jerry said, this is the best race on the racetrack for position.
These are for third and fourth. Rich Bickle started back in 7th spot, trying to make up for running out of gas last May while leading this race in the waning laps.
The OSB down in turn 1 and 2, and the leader went right between them, just like a field goal.
Right between the cars 22 and the 05 that spun, Rodney Combs Jr. And remember, this race in NASCAR All-Pro Slim Jim Tour rules say that the race cannot finish under the caution flag. I think they'll have these cars moving before we would have 7 laps complete. And there are some folks in the pits who are saying, having a little bit of discussion over what happened. Here's a replay of what happened here in turns 1 and 2.
Well, that's Rodney Combs Jr. going into the turn, and the car just gets loose on him. And there's David Green. Well, he got loose because there was a car spun up in front of him, and I think he had to hit his brakes and lost it. And as Benny said, David Green went right between both of them.
That's Brad Payne, the 22 car. That young man from Owensboro, Kentucky, or around Owensboro.
And caution being waved for the 8th time today. Les Westerfield, the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro flagman, waves the yellow once again. Back with more from Martinsville after this. Still under caution for the 8th time today here in Martinsville, Virginia. The Haynes 150 just a few laps away from being completed.
And now that the service truck has just went on the racetrack to put some oil dry down in turns 1 and 2. Oh, Ned, that's going to help out everything down there.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it was as if it was not slicking up already.
1994 NFL Draft coming up tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Tom Jackson, and a cast of thousands as we bring you all the selections. The 1994 NFL Draft live right here on ESPN. We'll see if Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson goes first. How about Heath Schuler and possibly those Redskins? We'll bring you all the draft action at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, right here on ESPN. Join Chris Boomer Berman, Joe and Tom, and the rest of the crew. That's following our coverage of the Haynes 500, by the way. NASCAR Winston Cup event we'll have on at tomorrow at noon.
Now, folks, remember, noon. 12 o'clock, straight up and down. You folks on the West Coast, that's 9 a.m. Got to get up a little bit earlier tomorrow because we'll be dropping the green flag at about 12 o'clock.
There's 1 to go, and we're going to drop the green flag on this race here in just a moment. In fact, they'll get the green and the white, won't they?
They'll come by, they will take, you're right, Ned, they'll come by, take the green flag. The next time by, they'll take the white flag and the checkered flag. It's just the way it always happens.
Green, white, and checkered. David Green has led since lap 17.
But now if there's a spin on the green flag lap, we got to do all that over again.
Yep.
We got to take the green flag, the white flag, the checkered flag.
And I'll bet you if there's a spin, it'll happen down in turns 1 and 2.
I'm not going to bet.
Okay.
Where you put that speedy right out.
Exactly.
David Green didn't want to see this caution, but he's trying to get himself a good jump here as the green flag waves.
It'll be white flag next time by for David Green. Bobby Gill second, Bickle is third, and Buckshot Jones's car did not come up to speed. The 00 car riding very high down in turns 1 and 2. As he tags the wall and has damage on the left front of that car.
The left front, something is broken on the left front, like the ball joint or something is broken on the 00 as we take the white flag. This is the last lap.
David Green leads him down. Final time. Ridley Ridley trying to move to the inside of Rich Bickle. Bobby Gill in the black number 71. They are single file. Buckshot Jones' car sitting on the track in turn 4, moving very slowly as the leaders come right at him. Here is David Green. He will win it. The battle for second spot. It will be Gill, then Bickle, then Ridley.
Wow. Great race. Rick Crawford came home in 5th place.
How about that? David Green runs the race for the first time in a couple of years or however long it's been and wins. I'm impressed.
Tell you what, he's got a great race car, taking nothing away from him, but here's what happened just moments ago. Let's take a look at what happened.
Let's check out the 00. That's right behind the blue car. Buckshot comes off. They get together.
That's Rick Crawford in the car number 14. And they get together again.
And Crawford gets into him, and he runs in the wall. That's what happened to the right front.
Mm-hmm.
Let's watch again. Man.
Looks like he just got a big fly swatter. Got the rear end of that car number 14, just swatted him up into the wall. Ford Thunderbird of Rick Crawford just smacking the 00 of Buckshot Jones, and he was able to limp around and finish. But a great effort by David Green, 36-year-old driver. The Penrose Chevrolet, John Arnold's car out of Louisville, Kentucky. John owns A1 Engineering and builds a lot of these cars.
You build a good one here, that's for doggone sure. John Arnold, I used to race against him in ARC, I believe, Jerry. Back in the 60s.
By the way, David Green runs for Bobby Labonte, drives his car in Busch Grand National. Been a good week for Bobby Labonte. Congratulations to him and Donna on their child being born, Robert Tyler Labonte. And now David climbs out, and John Kernan is standing by.
He's all right. Well, David, you almost made it look easy, although Bobby Gill did get on your back bumper a couple of times.
Well, you know, my middle name's Caution Flag, you know, and Bobby ran a great race, and I'm sorry Mike Cope had problems there, you know, but hey, this Penrose Firecracker Chevrolet ran good, and I want to thank John Arnold, the car owner, and Bobby Labonte, everybody for letting me have a chance, and the people at Goodmark, you know. Last time this sponsor was around, Bobby won the championship, so we're real happy.
Clinched it right here at Martinsville, in fact. I believe now you're going to run some more races in this division.
Well, hopefully so. You know, John's an old friend of mine from back in Louisville, Kentucky, and, you know, the Goodmark people, again, were gracious enough to give me an opportunity and a little bit of money to go race, and, you know, hopefully, you know, Winston Cup drivers driving with Busch people, you know, maybe by today, me driving, you know, some of those guys might be upset that I'm here racing, but I had a heck of a time, and all these guys are good racers, and hopefully one day they'll be in Busch.
You know, Benny and Ned said it looked like you were a football splitting the uprights whenever they were late in the race. So, you know, that happened pretty quickly in front of you. Did you just see it and see a hole and drive through it?
Well, again, my spotter, Keith, told me, you know, watch out right there. But somebody dumped some rear end grease or something. In the last 5 or 6 laps, my car got loose. And, you know, we went so long on the tires there, and I was afraid that we'd messed up. But everything was great. And I love Martinsville. And Terry Labonte, I'm glad he wasn't in this race today.
David Green, the winner, Jerry.
And he's referring to the Busch Grand National race. He ran early when Terry Labonte beat him, and he finished second after sitting on the pole. Congratulations to David Green, who wins the Haynes 150. Back with more after this. And David Green, as he takes the Haynes 150. He led 135 of 151 laps. We'll take a look at our full field finish here. 32 cars starting in the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series Haynes 150. Green takes the victory. Bobby Gill is second. Rich Bickle is third. Jody Ridley, a gallant effort, finishes fourth. And Rick Crawford is fifth. 6 through 10. Wayne Niedecken, Shane Hall, Scott Walters, Tammy Jo Kirk. Good run for Tammy Jo at ninth. And Rick Spencer finishes in 10th spot.
And 11th through 15th, Pete Orr, Billy Bigley, Hal Goodson, Ron Young, and Ron Barfield. All of those cars on the lead lap. In 16th position is Troy Miller. He, too, was on the lead lap. John Jones comes home 17th. Slick Yeomans in 18th. Rodney Combs 19th. And Buckshot Jones lost a lap there at the end and finished 20th.
21st, Freddie Query. Chuck Knight is 22nd. Bobby Russwood is 23rd. George Ingold, 24th. And Conrad Burr is 25th. 26 through 30, Brad Payne, Keith White, Mike Cope. There was our pole sitter, had trouble early on. Scotty Lovelady and Tommy Porter Jr. Back in 31st and 32nd, Ricky Sanders and Tony Walls. Now, John Kernan is caught up with two drivers who had a heck of a battle to finish third and fourth.
Jerry, I'm standing with Rich Bickle, who finished third. And I tell you what, those last few laps, the race fans on their feet, you and Jody put on quite a show.
Well, I'll tell you what, the old Terminal Truck and Thunderbird today was running pretty good. About halfway through the race there, the car started getting a little loose, and Jody was up underneath me there, and I could run up high at, just keep things getting real loose, and he pressured me hard, and it was good, clean racing. But I'd like to thank Slim Jim for putting this show on today, and everybody here in the All-Pro, and we'll see everybody next week in Talladega.
Well, congratulations on a third-place finish. Fourth place goes to Jody Ridley, and that was really some clean racing out there. I mean, you could have spun him out and taken that position.
Well, probably could have, but he probably wasn't like too much. But yeah, his car a little bit loose, and mine a little bit tight. And when I got down underneath him, it binding the car up a little bit and couldn't just get that jump I needed. And we had a good day. And I'd like to say hi to two grandbabies back home, Melanie and Jordan, and all the folk back there. Really love you.
All right, Jody Ridley after a fourth-place finish, Jerry.
Well, Jody Ridley actually will take over the point lead. He has a 50-point bulge over the second-place car, and we